How about this for a quote, Tim Perraney? Normally, after these races, I speak to Andrea Stella and Zach Brown quite quickly. They are shell-shocked down here at McLaren. They don't know what to say. They have gone. They've gone to the back of the garage. They said no interviews until after the podium. They need to go and understand and get their ducks in a row and explain this all away. That is from the Sky Sports broadcast. That's Ted Kravitz. That's pretty telling. McLaren, excuse me, I do have a cold. McLaren are pretty, they're pretty chatty when things go well. Today was not one of those days, Tim. What the hell happened?
Well, first of all, Adam, you being a McLaren fan, how much rage is inside of you right now?
Oh my God. I have so many things that I want to ask. Like, it's hard when you get on these shows because I'm trying to be as objective as possible, but I don't understand why they didn't see what we all could see, and it was so plainly obvious. Like, I don't understand. They seem to have this sort of galaxy brain approach to the way that they handle their cars and their drivers, and it's like, guys, this sport's been a sport for like 100 years. There's plenty of different strategies you could pull from. You don't need to reinvent the wheel. And yet, Tim, in the interest of parity for drivers, it seems like that's what they're trying to do.
Well, I mean, let's look at where all this sort of started. I mean, right? Obviously, you had the lap 7 collision between Pierre Gasly, Nico Hülkenberg that brings out the safety car. And at that moment, you have Max Verstappen diving for the pits, who is in P2 at the moment. And we will talk about the grid situation as well, because it obviously played a factor into all of this. But Max diving down into pit lane. Oscar's on team radio waiting for his instructions. For him, assumed that he was probably going to be pitting. Mm-hmm. And then neither himself nor Lando Norris dives down pit lane either. And you have Oscar Piastri, Lando Norris, and Esteban Ocon on the opening of the safety car who do not pit. Every other driver in team pits. You had teams on teams doing double stacks out in pit lane, almost running into each other, going down pit out. And yet McLaren does not bring their drivers in. Now you may wonder, well, why would they do that? Because it was a pivotal moment within the entire race. I heard from McLaren team principal following this one, Andrea Stella. He said that the reason was that they were worried about the cars coming back out into traffic, meaning that not every team was going to pit. That's what they thought, anyways, and having to give up the track position and then go and fight for it as well.
Okay. When
you boil this all down and you see how it shakes out, if you have... Let's say you have a number 1 driver and a number 2 driver. Let's say McLaren's doing that. That is the way they're going to go racing. Not papaya rules, not McLaren racing rules. It's a P1 driver, a P2 driver. The P1 driver is obviously going to get the benefit of the better strategy. The better strategy was pit under the safety car, take the new tires, get the free pit stop, because this is mandatory 2 pit stop. You had to do 2 pit stops in this race. Mandatory. You had to. You didn't have a choice. Get the free pit stop. You would have been on your way to race victory, because that was the fastest way to a race win on Sunday at the Qatar Grand Prix.
Yeah.
However, with McLaren, and we can assume this, but it's not a fact, that having your drivers compete under papaya rules, McLaren racing rules, race each other hard, don't touch. And for the team itself, they'll do their best to stay out of it. Mm-hmm. But Adam, by the team staying completely out of this thing and not interfering with the Drivers' Championship, they may also be sitting on the fence, and I said this on SportsCenter, just sitting on the fence as both of their drivers play themselves out of this drivers' championship.
And that's got to be the concern, right? Like it's shocking to me that they like what blew me away. Andrea Stella, when he did finally talk, he said something along the lines of, "Well, we didn't expect everybody to pit." Why? Why didn't you expect everybody to pit? Of course, they're going to take an early pit stop. Nobody wants if they can help it. No team is going to take 2 pit stops in a race. Nobody. Right. And, you had to at this track because of the heat rules. They were worried, anything beyond 25 laps on a tire could explode. We don't want to have that. Right. And that completely makes sense. So you're given a gift. Why not take it? I don't understand. And is it like it's given me Ferrari 2022 levels of bad strategy? And I'm trying to figure out, Tim, not why they didn't pit. Well, sorry, I am trying to figure out why they didn't pit. I'm trying to figure it out from their perspective. What was the wisdom that they saw in not pulling in?
Yeah, it was simply, in Andrea Stella words, is to avoid traffic, essentially, on the way out. So teams who may not have pitted, like maybe they thought that not every team was going to take the free stop.
Yeah. But does that mean you don't trust your drivers?
No, not necessarily. It's
Okay.
What's the fastest way to victory, right? That's sort of how you kind of have to look at it. It's what is the fastest way to get to a race win. And if you're conceding track position, which you never really want to do anyways, like when I saw Max peel off, I was like, whoa, Verstappen just like gave up P2, conceded P2. Like you gave that track position away. And then I saw everybody else and I was like, oh, dang, I think, Hannah Schmidt down at Red Bull Racing maybe onto something down there. And I think everybody better pay attention because she's one of the best.
She's watching the world burn around her, and she lit the match, man.
Yeah.
Like, it's amazing. She had great that she was up there on the podium with Max, because boy, is that deserved.
Oh, 100%. Yeah, it was pretty cool to see it. Like, she's an incredible race strategist. And I know there are some other teams who have tried to poach her from Red Bull Racing before in the past. And yeah, they should, because she is one of the best, if not the best out there. And if they're pulling the trigger on bringing Max Verstappen in from P2, knowing that if Lando had have beaten Max today, it would have been over for Verstappen. Over in the Drivers' Championship. Bye-bye. It's not happening for you. To pull the trigger on that takes a lot of guts. And if they're doing it, Adam, it means they can see something and they know something.
So what I see, Tim, is I see a Red Bull team that's like, whatever, throw it all against the wall. Remember, Max put an old engine in the car today too.
Yeah, he did.
Right?
Yeah.
Like, it's not like he didn't even, he accepted less horsepower today. And so I see Red Bull going, screw it, throw everything at the wall. I see McLaren going, well, we're hopefully going to win, and let's not break any glass along the way. And I just don't think that's how you win a Formula One championship. This is a sport based on ruthlessness. And if McLaren wants to play it fair, the fairest way to play it to me, Tim, is, okay, we are weekend to weekend. Whoever qualifies best, they're the one that gets priority.
But that's the way that they say it is, but it wasn't today.
It wasn't. And Oscar won the sprint and then won the qualifying. I don't know. Like, and when he crossed the finish line, you heard that radio message where he's like, I have no words. Tim, I don't know if you saw too, in the media pit, Zach Brown came up and hugged him in front of the cameras. And I thought, that's a bit of a camera op situation. If you want to hug the guy, you hug him not on camera, because the guy's not going to be thrilled. I have to wonder. I mean, it's amazing that Piastri has come back and become a factor in this again as well. The beautiful thing about today is that we have a 3-car race for the championship in Abu Dhabi, which is amazing too. But this guy has got to go explain to his sponsors and his bosses, this being Zach Brown, why they are making the decisions they're making. If I was a shareholder at McLaren, if I was a member at the board, I'd be like, Zach, what happened? Just pick one and go. And the easiest way to pick one is qualifying. Who's got it this weekend? You got 2 great drivers. Which one's got the best? Which one's driving the best this weekend? Is it Oscar? Okay, we're going Oscar. I don't understand.
Yeah, no, Adam, you're right. And normally, if this weren't let's say if the stakes weren't as high this weekend, let's say this is, mid-season, Oscar Piastri's getting the best strategy because he's in the race lead. He would have gotten the best strategy. He would. I honestly, in my heart, say that he would have been brought in on lap 7. I honestly believe that, because you can't tell me that wasn't the fastest way to a race victory. I don't want to hear it. I mean, it's fact. Like, look at what Carlos Sainz did.
Yeah, no kidding. No kidding.
And I'm sure McLaren's going to go back and review all of this and understand that they have made a mistake, for sure. Yeah. No question about it.
I mean, they kind of came out and said it.
Yes, they did. In a way. Never said, we made a mistake, right? However, they said it in a roundabout way.
Yeah.
You cannot do this in Abu Dhabi. Whoever is in the lead or in the primary position should get the primary treatment.
Right.
If you're going to stick with papaya rules, McLaren racing rules, that's what has to happen. So that comes down to what you had said, Adam, qualifying.
Mm-hmm.
And qualifying on Saturday at the Qatar Grand Prix, and we'll talk about Lando Norris, because that's where this started.
Well, tell me why he didn't come out for that last lap, Tim, because people want to know.
He did, right? He messed it up. He made a big mistake heading into turn 2, went off track and abandoned the lap. That was it.
And he's been incredible to that point, right?
Yes. I would say Lando was the faster driver in qualifying on Saturday. He was holding down provisional pole. His lap, if he could have completed it, I'm pretty sure he would have been on pole position. But since he made a mistake and went off, didn't go off, sorry. If he had have kept going the way he was going off. Yeah. Correct myself. Yeah. However, still qualified P2 and starting on the dirtier side of the track. Nobody wanted to start on the right driver's right-hand side of the track this weekend. Nobody wanted to, because there's no running that gets done on this track. There is little to no grip on the right-hand side. George Russell went backwards, even though he didn't have a great start, and he said it himself. He still went backwards, in a big way, not in a small way either. And so did Lando Norris. And Max Verstappen, his key competitor, and Oscar Piastri both had great starts on the clean side of the track, took advantage of it, and away they went. He could have closed out this championship this weekend. And then in the race itself for Norris, just little tiny mistakes here or there. At one point, he had a really big off. He was told in his final... he was told in his stint before his last stop, this stint on the radio, Will Joseph, this stint is very important that you are faster than Max.
Okay.
And that did not happen. Verstappen caught him. He was, but before Lando peeled off to the pits, he was 5/10 behind him.
Yep.
So Lando didn't even put any distance in between himself and Max towards the end of the stint. And so he also had that off. He had a massive off at a very high-speed part of the racetrack, and it was a hard off. And we don't know if there was damage to the floor. He'd already damaged one floor during the weekend. Adam, was this number 2? Did he do any damage to this floor as well? Does it need to have a little repair done to it at the same time? We don't know at this moment, but it could have, because it was a hard off. Did he lose performance within the race because of it? And then honestly, Adam, Kimi Antonelli handed him a gift.
Well, yeah. So I want to talk about that, because that's a bit controversial. But Kimi, you mean at the end of the race, right?
Yeah, he had.
So Lando passes Kimi, and Carlos is falling fast because he has some sort of issue with his car. And I don't know. Did you ever get confirmation about what it was?
So for Carlos's car, well, let's start. First of all, let's just get Antonelli sort of out of the way here, because I saw a bunch of crap online too. And
it's Helmut Marko and Gianpiero Lambiase saying that Kimi Antonelli intentionally let Lando Norris through.
Yeah, I mean, I think at the time they didn't see the replays or what was going on there because, there's no way. So for Antonelli, not only was he getting the dirty air of Carlos Sainz, who was in front of him, but at the same time made a mistake heading into that fast right-hander. So when we did our sim lap, Adam, if people go back, you can watch it. But on our sim lap, that corner complex, and let me get everybody the exact corner that I'm talking about because I don't want to get anybody confused. So essentially, it's the was it the hairpin section? I believe it was. I got it here. Pardon me, everyone. Pulling it up.
Your camera's shaking a bit today too, buddy.
Oh, dude, I was
just filled with rage.
Just let me tell you, corner 10. So it's there's a fast right-hander before the left-hander, and he had already made a mistake heading into turn 9. Right, there was already he went too quick into there, and the problem with this turn 9, turn 10 section is it's very fast, but it's also very technical. Mm-hmm. And you have to be on the right line, which means you have to be on the proper sides of the track. And I explained this in our race, our pre-race simulator drive that we do. So for Antonelli, he makes the first mistake into turn 9. Mm-hmm. And so that already, he's on the wrong trajectory for turn 10.
Okay.
Flat out. Yep. For turn 10, there's this little runoff that drivers are using to kind of open up the corner, and you kind of put your car over the line. You can go 4 wheels off there, but if you do, you're going to get your lap time deleted. Yep. However, it gives you the best entry and trajectory to get in and out of the corner really fast.
And when you're on lap 56 to 57, it doesn't matter.
Well, I mean, if you make a mistake, Adam, and you can't get the car where you need it to be to get into turn 10, then your exit of turn 10 you're screwed because you are going to get so much oversteer just trying to get the car out of the corner and get back to power. Either way, he was getting past. It didn't matter. Like, that mess up in turn 9 is what led to him going off in turn 10. These are two complexes that are connected in their own way. You have to have the car in the right spot. So Antonelli, unfortunately, makes his mistake. That allows Norris to go by. And like I was saying, like, just that literally was a 2-point gift. I think it was 2 points. Pretty sure it
was 2 points.
Handed to him. Like, here you go. This is a nice buffer for you. Mm-hmm. And so I would say, Adam, getting back and just putting a bow on Lando Norris's weekend was a tiny bit disappointing because I think this was a weekend where he could have easily shown he had that, killer instinct and just put this thing away, but couldn't. He couldn't do it.
And what blew me away, I mean, he did have 10 laps to get past Kimi Antonelli. And had he been able to do that, he would have been able to pass Carlos Sainz as well, who fell precipitously after the car issues. And this is where, unfortunately, the criticism of Lando Norris comes in. And it's like, in those moments, do you have that extra bit? Every time they came down that free or the straightaway, it's like, they would ask, oh, does he have enough this time? No, he doesn't. Oh, does he have enough this time? No, he doesn't. And that's not to take anything away from the car Mercedes were running, the drive that Kimi Antonelli had, which was very impressive. But Lando at his point in his career, and this was the race, by the way, that Lando became, I believe, the most, he started the most races for McLaren of any driver ever. He's got enough experience, Tim, where he needs to get by him. Like, this is a rookie driver still, right? You got to get by him. And that's the thing. Like, if there was ever any question about that, I felt like in the last couple of races, Lando had done a pretty good job of erasing all the issues that his critics have of him. But if you were to put Max Verstappen in 5th today, I think Max Verstappen finishes 3rd. If you put him in 5th with 10 or 15 laps to go, which is where Lando was, coming out of the pit stop, brand new tires, get him warm, and get him going, I think he gets past Kimi Antonelli, and I think he catches Carlos Sainz. And I don't think there's a lot of people that would disagree on that. And that's why you're kind of like, Lando, like this is the moment. Now, the reality is he's put himself in a really good spot, Tim, because all he needs to do is finish third or higher next week and he wins. That's it. But he couldn't finish third today. And there's going to be a lot of drivers trying to get in the way of that. So, this, and obviously I also know if McLaren had not had the issues with a double disqualification last week, well, we're not in this issue either, right? This is probably wrapped up and we're laughing. But the chips fall where they may. You can't control that stuff as a driver. The one thing you can control is getting past a rookie. And I wanted him. I don't know what it needed to be. I don't know if I'm being unfair here, if the car didn't have it, Tim, but I felt like every single time for 10 laps, you couldn't close that gap just a little bit more. I feel like that might be pressure getting to him. What do you think?
I agree. It was hard for him to get past Antonelli heading into turn one because Kimi was doing a good job of
planting the car.
Preserving the battery and getting a good exit out of the final turn and putting all of those things to use, and knowing that, hey, when we're in sector 1 and sector 2, I can't, and in a bit of sector 3, I can't make a mistake here. Yeah. Because Norris is he's gonna catch up to me, and if I make a mistake, he's gonna be all over me. But if I can conserve some tire life and juice up the battery a bit, then I can use that to my advantage coming out of the final turn. Antonelli was really thinking this through. You could see it. It was a really good drive from Kimi up to that point, because I think for himself, he actually was shooting for a podium today, and he was actually really disappointed about the fact that he didn't score a podium. He was thinking, honestly, Kimi was thinking podium on Saturday, like after qualifying. I listened to his press conference afterwards, and that's what he was saying, like, hey, I should be going for a podium on Sunday. And he was. And I thought that was really impressive from him. I thought he did a great job. Got George Russell off the start, had a solid race, kept Lando behind him, just made that one little mistake. And when you say, hey, if that's Max Verstappen, does he, he gets that done and off he goes, and he goes after Carlos Sainz. And, part of me would agree with you for sure, Adam. I would say for Lando's weekend as a whole, it was up and down. There were some pretty brilliant moments from Norris that I thought, like, oh dang, like he's going to close this out this weekend. Like that's where he had me.
That's the annoying part, is that it's there. You know it's there.
100%. Like you
just can't rely on it to always be there. That's the problem.
Right. But at the beginning of it, I really did feel that this could be a weekend where he closed some things out. And I knew he was really going for it on Friday during practice, he was flying off the track. He's going off here, he's going off there, damages the floor. And I know, okay, well, like he's given this thing everything he's got. And it just, in free practice, had just started. And I'm like, okay, at least he's, doing everything he can. But, when when you look at the greats, right? And maybe like if Norris wins this championship, maybe all of these things that he has learned, maybe that brings him back even stronger for the next year. We've seen that with other past champions like Max Verstappen, for sure. Same with Lewis Hamilton as well. Learn from mistakes during a championship run, and then the following season come back and be twice as strong. Yeah. But for Norris, made a lot of mistakes this weekend when he could have closed this thing out. And I have to wonder if, like I said, if that's Max Verstappen of right now, is he making those mistakes? You and I both know that he's not.
No, he's not.
Like he is like going to be like a metronome. You know what you're going to be getting from that guy. But for Norris, like I had said, if he carries on and wins this championship, I 100% believe that he's going to learn a lot from the Qatar Grand Prix weekend.
Speaking of, what kind of a boogeyman is Max Verstappen in the McLaren garage? What kind of a psychological effect does Max Verstappen have on McLaren right now?
I used that in my Sports Center hit tonight.
Did you?
I called him a boogeyman.
He must, right? He must.
That's
I'm
incredible.
glad you use that. I'm great minds think alike, Tim.
100%. Look, I can't take full credit for it because my producer is also the one he first said it, and then I'm like, that's great, I'm using it. Anyways, sorry everybody,
Right,
I digress. Yes. Sorry, what was your question about Max? Well, essentially, he's awesome.
What's his effect on the McLaren garage? I don't need to tell you. I mean,
it's a big effect, buddy. It's a big
what do we say? Like, what do we say about Max? Oh, great drive. He's a great driver. I want to know. Here's the greatest drivers of all time are like the Grim Reaper. They come in, and it's not that they win races; it's that they defeat teams who, members of teams that are not even racing. Like Schumacher, when he finally got Ferrari right, it took a few years, right? Mm-hmm. That team became like this juggernaut that everybody kind of knew. That was my era of introduction into Formula One. Everybody kind of knew before the race started who was winning. Lewis, when he really got going, Sebastian Vettel in years 2 and 3, I think, specifically with Red Bull when he won those 4 in a row, it almost became, it was just like, I know who's winning today. It's obvious. Mm-hmm. Max Verstappen in 2023, Tim. Mm-hmm. I feel like he looms large over that McLaren garage in a way that I don't think we've seen in a while.
He does now, buddy. Let me tell you, he does now. I'm going to reference a quote. This is from an article.
Give it to me.
Good friend Chris Medlin wrote. This is from Max Verstappen. Quote, "We also have to be realistic. We are in this fight still because of other people's failures, not because, if you look at the whole season, what we did." That is a quote, Adam, that says that is a shot across the bow of McLaren saying, you guys are choking and you're handing this to me. Mm-hmm. And earlier in the week, Verstappen saying that essentially, if I'm in a McLaren, I would have had this championship won by now.
Yeah. And he's right. Everybody knows it. Who's going to deny that? Yeah. And I also liked his conversation before the weekend, because there was a quick conversation apparently had between McLaren and Oscar Piastri about favoring one driver over the other, and Oscar said that the conversation had taken place and that it had been short. And Max said, well, I would have told him to F off. Like, no way am I going to take that. And, after the race in the media pen, they had, obviously the 3 podium guys. Verstappen, thrilled. Piastri, sad. Carlos, thrilled to be there. And they ask Oscar, do you think you'd change anything about these papaya rules? He's like, other than Monza, is like, it hasn't come into play all that much, despite, how much everybody's been reporting on it. I don't know if I believe that, by the way. And he said, no, I probably wouldn't. I want to ask you this, Tim. Is that something that he's just playing team ball there? Or do you think he actually believes that?
Oh, buddy. That's a good one. Look, Monza was one we all talked about a lot, right?
Yeah.
Like him moving over for Lando. Like that, yep. That was a huge moment that we all talked about. Huge. Yep. And I think, I'm trying to think like how much the points was he gave up there. I believe it was 3 points he gave up. And I remember when we were in Mexico, and one of the reasons why the Mexican fans were booing Lando Norris is because Oscar Piastri had moved over in Monza to give Lando the position back, and then also with it came the points, and the Mexican fans believed that Lando should give those points back to Oscar Piastri. Yeah, because obviously they knew how close and how tight this championship was going to be, and it was going to come down to the wire, and those 3 points may make a difference. And you know what? They might. If you take those 3 points, it would have been 13 points that Piastri is down by now, not 16. So, there's that as well. And so I think Oscar's done a better job than most keeping it contained and not losing his frustration. And I very impressed with his demeanor when it has come to, in particular, this weekend, not often do we hear Piastri get frustrated with the team, even on team radio at the end of a race.
Never.
Even him saying words like gut wrenching. Like, I've never really heard Piastri talk about the team or talk about a situation within a race the way he did at the end of this one. You could tell he's pissed off. Like,
oh yeah,
I think that is Oscar Piastri pissed off. Like, so, I think that's him, like, at the boiling point where it's like he knew that they threw something really good away.
They threw a win away. They threw a double podium away. He knows that.
Yeah,
we all know that.
But you rarely see him like show the frustration.
Yep.
And he's just so good at keeping that stuff under wraps.
Yeah.
I'm good at compartmentalizing.
Yeah.
Like, he's just really good at it.
I'm also frustrated, Tim. Like McLaren could have set some records this season that nobody thought would be broken. Like, one of them was, had they not fumbled it so many times, they could have beat Red Bull for most team points ever in a season. They can't do that. And they couldn't do that after the double DNF. That would have been a hell of a thing to put on your resume, right? Doesn't get you any more money, but it is something to go, oh, you think Red Bull was really great in that season? Well, we got 2 drivers, and look what they did. Now we're looking at it where Max has 7 wins, Lando's got 7 wins, Oscar's got 7 wins. That's pretty crazy in terms of parity. And the one good thing to be gleaned from this, even as a McLaren fan, which I am, and it's killing me, and I'm trying not to rage right now, is we are going to have, no matter what happens, a classic, all-time, documentary-worthy race in Abu Dhabi. And awesome. We haven't had a finish like this since Lewis versus Max. And I think that part of it is, I can't overstate how cool that is. Yeah, I love that for this sport, Tim. I really, really do.
It's great, Adam. I know we sit here and we're passionate about it, and we love the sport, and I totally agree with you. Like, it feels like a Christmas present that we're getting to unwrap. In all honesty, it does, because it's like because we don't know who's going to win this thing. Like, even everybody's like, oh, well, Lando's got a 12-point lead heading to Abu Dhabi. Yeah, big deal. He's got a 12-point lead. Oh, God. Do you know motorsports? Like, do you know what can happen within a Formula One race or any race whatsoever? Engine failures, tire blow up, collision. You make a mistake and go off the track. You break the floor of the car.
Penalty.
Team screws a pit stop up. Penalty. Do you know how much shit can happen within a race that could easily change who wins this championship? Like, any 3 of these guys can win it. Any 3 of them.
But what's dangerous, Tim, is that Max has nothing to lose.
Oh.
And those are always the ones that are scary.
Yeah,
right?
Sure.
Max, yes, he's got a championship streak that would break. I don't think he cares, and I don't think Red Bull cares.
That's why Adam, when he does his press conferences, he's like, yeah, I don't care. Like, because that's his mindset. Even Nelson came on here to talk about it on Thursday, and even he said he doesn't care. Because he's I'm sure a part of him cares, but he's putting that out there because he knows the McLaren people, drivers included, are going to hear what he said.
And they're dying to beat him. And he's a step ahead mentally. It's crazy. It's amazing. I think metronome is the perfect way to describe Max Verstappen. I'm so glad you used that as a descriptor, because honestly, every time he is on beat, no mistakes, nothing. It's amazing. Now, we do have to talk about some other stuff that happened in this race, because lost in all of this, Carlos Sainz became the first Williams driver in a decade to achieve 2 podiums in the same season.
Oh, shit.
Now, it speaks to how far the Williams brand had fallen. But I also want to say it is now speaking to how beautifully it's being resurrected by James Vowles, by the team, by the factory, which is still being updated, still has old parts and components and whatever. I mean, they were doing everything on Microsoft Excel a year and a half ago. They're now modernizing. Dorlitzon's put some money in. They got 2 very, very strong drivers. And I want to talk about Carlos specifically at Williams, because This is a guy who was booted from Ferrari, who had a disaster weekend, and we're going to them next. So don't go too far with them. And had really not great results stepping into that car the first half of the season. Like, there were some bright spots, but it was pretty clear Alex Albon was comfortable with it and Carlos was not. But one thing that you've always said about Carlos, Tim, is that he is the hardest working guy. He will be in the sim all day if that's what it takes. And it seems like with that sort of persistence and that drive that he has, he's been able to kind of get a handle on this car. And it's not the best car in the grid, but he is getting the best out of it.
He is, and I'll say it again, Adam, one of the hardest working drivers on the grid. Yeah, he's talented. There's no question about that. Is he generational? No, I don't think so. But does his hard work paper over that fact? It most certainly does. And that takes him to another level in terms of being a racing driver. It puts him above so many others because of the work, the sweat equity he puts into training, the sim, working with the engineers, a new engineer that he had to deal with this year. Like, there's so much that goes into that. If you take a look at, what happened with Lewis transitioning from Mercedes over to Ferrari, it's been a disaster. But if you look at Carlos Sainz and what he's done, transferring over from Ferrari to Williams, he's made it work for himself. Like, and I'm not saying Lewis hasn't been putting the work in. He most definitely has. However, for Carlos, he has arrived at a time with this team that they've discovered how to work this regulation really well with the car that they have, and they executed on the updates that they brought. And that's the important part in all of this as well, are the updates that they brought. And without Carlos's input from his post-season Abu Dhabi tests that he did with Williams, then I don't think, Adam, they are where they're at. I don't think they've secured the P5 in the Constructors' Championship, which they did today. They went from P9 in 2024 to P5 in 2025. And I think a big part of that has to do with that Abu Dhabi test that Carlos did for them at the end of last year, and them confirming this is what's wrong with the car. This is the direction we need to go. These are the components. This is the execution strategy. The drivers are going to work hard, and then we're going to come back and we're going to have a car that they can drive, that they can go out there and at certain tracks, only certain tracks, mind you, are we going to be able to take this car and capitalize on good points. This isn't a car that's always going to be scoring points. This was a car that was built for specific tracks for the drivers to execute. Each time they got to those tracks, it was, hey, we need to execute at this track to collect points because this is where we're going to be strong, because the next race we're going to go to is going to be a disaster. And sure enough, that's what happened. And that's what the drivers did. And Carlos Sainz has played a huge role in all of that. And today, in this race, he had something on the front of the car break. And essentially what ended up happening, as soon as that broke, it basically right-hand corners, he lost about 8 degrees of tire temperature in the front right tire. And he also lost downforce as well, all in one sitting. And it was just a small component that failed on the car. Yep. Now, he's the one who dragged it to the finish line. And I would say magnificent form, because he had Lando breathing down his neck for the last 2 laps of this race, Adam.
Yep. Brilliant driving.
Yeah.
And I think that's what's so cool about the Williams driver lineup going into 2026. We've got no idea who's gonna run away with it next year. And usually in the first year of a regulation change, there's a team or two that figure it out, and everybody else is sort of left in the dust, which is why, I always dread regulation changes, because, it gives rise to what we saw with Red Bull in 22 and 23. It was Red Bull, Ferrari 22, and a little Aston Martin, and then they fell off, and then 23 was all Red Bull. And it's sort of, now we're at a point where it seems like everybody's starting to catch up with everybody else, and the parity's there, and then they're going to flip the damn regulations again. So I'm concerned about next year. But for right now, Williams has got 2 really gutsy drivers. Like, Albon has, squeezed points out of that car in the past, not just this season, but previously, just playing crazy defense. Like, clearly the slowest car in the top 10, but still hanging on to P7 or P8 because nobody can get by him, right? Just car placement. Carlos, I want to ask you this because, you're a driver, how this sort of feedback loop works, right? And I'm going to bring people to the really famous Niki Lauda scene from Rush, which is one of the best race movies of all time. And he basically tells the Ferrari engineer that what they've created is like a pig, right? It's a terrible car. And he's like, the Ferrari engineer is like, excuse me, this is a Ferrari. And Kimmy's like, Niki's like, yeah, I don't really care. It's a pig. It's terrible. I wonder about having a driver in your stable like Carlos and the feedback he is able to give. How much better does a guy with great feedback make your overall team?
Yeah, a driver who's able to really get into the technical nuts and bolts and give you that very detailed feedback from the braking all the way through to corner entry, all the way through to apexing, and all the way through to exit and power down exit. Like that if you have a driver who can give you that amount of detail of exactly what the car is doing and what you think it could need, then you're making everybody else's job around you that much easier. And if the engineers are listening to what you're saying, which Valve has these guys doing, right? Mm-hmm. Then you're going to go places, right? Because it sometimes, Adam, what happens on a lot of these teams is the fact that the engineers don't listen to the drivers.
Yeah.
And some engineers feel that they know more than the drivers do, but the engineers' asses aren't in the seats, right? It's the drivers. And that's why you see a lot of the teams that have big success is because they are listening to the driver. And the teams that aren't necessarily listening to the drivers and what they are telling and asking them to do and what they need. If you give them what they need and they're giving you the detailed feedback, then they build the components and then things start to work. You develop that pipeline, right? That's the important part of it. Everybody has a job on a Formula One team, including the driver who has one of, if not the most important job. And all of it circulates around like the driver. And if you're not listening to the driver saying, then good luck.
So are Ferrari listening to their drivers?
That's a great question, Adam, and that's something that I would love to know. And part of me feels like, no, they're not.
And it's amazing, like hearing Lewis Hamilton. Listen, when Lewis gets frustrated, he doesn't hold back. But hearing him say, I don't know how we made the car worse. And Charles Leclerc saying something similar. And then watching Carlos Sainz on the podium, Tim, it's like salt in the wound, right? Like you've made a bad situation even worse. I mean, we're a couple of weeks removed from John Elkann saying the drivers should drive more and talk less. I mean, that quote alone, Tim, tells me they're not listening. And I have to say that, like, I feel like you are a boat without an anchor if you are not listening to your drivers, especially if you got one like Lewis Hamilton. Now, my understanding, and this could be rudimentary, is I think that Carlos and Lewis, from what I've read and reading the tea leaves, want different things from the car.
Yeah,
and
for sure.
At Red Bull, that's possible, right? Like, I mean, they do tilt Max Verstappen's way, but they can, you can tweak cars to be a little bit different based on a driver style. I think the frustration is probably Charles going, well, I've been here and I've seen this car evolution and it's never been this bad. Mm-hmm. And Lewis going, well, I haven't been here and you needed a fresh set of eyes. And I was brought here because I've won 7 world championships with 2 different teams. And my feedback should matter more than anybody's feedback, Charles included. Mm-hmm. I don't know how, like, Ferrari's going to be fine, right? They're going to go into next year. It's going to be the same driver lineup. Like, I don't think anything changes there unless a nuclear bomb goes off. But what is going to have to change is however that feedback from the drivers gets fed up, whether it's ignored, listened to too much, whatever it is, there's got to be a different filter on that. And that seems to be like a very difficult thing to manage. If you're Fred Vasseur, what do you do with this weekend? What does it tell you about your team? What changes do you make?
I think you just throw this weekend in the dumpster and you don't look back along with the race car itself at the end of the season. I think all of it just probably goes right to trash because
there's nothing to be learned.
I think like you have 2 of the best drivers on the grid.
Yeah, you do.
You have a
Brilliant.
7-time Formula One world champion, one of the winningest most drivers ever in the history of the sport. And you've got one of the fastest drivers over one lap, who's probably top 3 on the grid right now in terms of talent. And it's being wasted. And if you're not listening to what they're saying, you got bigger problems. Like, you've got some major problems. So I've never seen Charles Leclerc so frustrated than what I've seen from him over the last 2 races. Seeing him in Vegas, talking to him then, and you could just see it on his face. He's frustrated, man. Like, and he should be. I never really heard him sound so frustrating either. I mean, at the end of this race, him just saying it's been a very frustrating weekend. They were nowhere in the race, and particularly on pace, and he said he had no words. He said he's very, very disappointed to see the performance of this thing. You don't normally hear Charles talk like that unless he's really, like, that's him really upset, right?
Yeah.
And Adam, like, for Lewis, just a unbelievable 4th pointless Grand Prix with Ferrari in the last 10 race
Unbelievable. Unthinkable. But when the season started, unthinkable.
I think, again, remember when we talked about how Lewis had, like, made a bunch of notes? Like, this was during our John Elkin podcast.
Yeah,
I had mentioned that he'd made, like, a bunch of notes, given it to the team and people at the factory, just things that he saw and he felt that they could do better at. And, you know, there are things on the car that he wanted, that thought that they could change in the way maybe they do some of the processes as well. And some folks at Ferrari took it the right way, some took it the wrong way. And who knows what happened after that. I mean,
what did Nate Saunders say? He said they're stubborn, right?
Yeah, 100%. But he's doing it. He's going to be creating more notes again.
Yeah.
And he's said it publicly, and he's said it to the media. And so I'll be curious to see, because at the end of the season, he's going to give over another round of notes for there to be some changes.
Yeah.
And for Lewis, it's basically saying that time will tell if things do change. He figured that there's no reason why they can't change, why there can't be these changes that he's looking for or wanting to see. I think as a group, if you're Ferrari, you're not only paying Lewis Hamilton because he's an amazing driver, you're paying Lewis Hamilton as well because of the valuable experience that he brings with him from other teams that he has won championships with.
Mm-hmm.
Championships. Like, that's what you're paying for that. Like, you need to listen to what he's saying, right? And I think, and I hope that whatever the notes are that Lewis hands over, that Ferrari considers them and implements some of them. Because this has been, I would say, one of, if not his worst season in F1. And it's not that he's not a good driver. Like, that statistically, Adam, it's, I mean, come on, what are we talking about right now, right? Like,
this will be his 2nd season ever without a win if he doesn't win in Abu Dhabi.
That to me just blows my mind. Like,
and the only other season was that horrible first Mercedes season, right? And obviously, Tim, like, he did win a sprint race, but I don't think he can. Like, we're talking about Grand Prix races.
Yeah, we're talking Grand Prix here, not sprints. And the thing is, Adam, like, if you gave Lewis the equipment, wins, pole positions, they'd be there.
Yeah, if he was with McLaren,
you got to give him. Yeah, you got to give him the equipment, right?
Yeah.
And if he's telling you stuff, and same with Charles, if he's telling them stuff as well, like, they need to be listening, because I don't think Ferrari as a group, you can lose these 2 drivers, Adam.
No.
I don't think that's, like, even if, like, let's say 2026, let's say it's a bit better than 2025, but maybe as a driver, you don't see them heading in a championship winning direction anytime soon. Maybe they're on that path, but maybe it's just not fast enough.
Mm-hmm.
There's no way either one of these guys sticks around. And yes, you're Ferrari, right? Incredible heritage, team, facilities, money. But at the end of the day, like these drivers that you've got, extremely talented, championship winning, championship caliber drivers. Everybody else is going to want them on their team.
Yeah. Oh man. Like, I mean, who wouldn't take a run at Charles Leclerc?
Oh, I
during his prime. Are you kidding me?
Listen, if I had, and that's what's about next year is going to be interesting, right? Is the fact that you're going to have most of the grid whose drivers' contracts are up, and Leclerc's isn't, and he could trigger an out clause. And let's say one of the top teams who you can see is like right on the cusp of becoming dominant, and they have a driver who's leaving or they don't want to bring back, you can bet your butt that they are going to give Charles Leclerc everything he wants. Even if Lewis Hamilton becomes available, you can bet. I would put a ton of money on that. Like
if I'll give you one. If Kimi and George are not up to it next year, if the car is good, but they hemorrhage points or make some mistakes or whatever, it would not shock me to see some Charles Leclerc and Mercedes rumors. And the other thing is, and it's worth mentioning, people are like, well, what about Max? Max said, listen, if these rules come in and they suck and I'm not interested, I'll just leave. He's made his money. He's fine. And it's so funny with this sport because there are very few athletes on the planet that are like every teams are always trying to attract athletes. In this case, it'll be the entire sport trying to keep Max in it. That's the position that he currently holds, which is pretty unique. I'm very, very interested to see what happens at Ferrari over the winter. What do they come back and say? Obviously, it's going to be PR spun. I understand that. But, if I'm them, there are no vacations after this season. Falling, they were second place last year, and just by a hair to fall this much with this injection of talent and watching Carlos Sainz, help Williams at the end of the season grab that fifth place spot, which was very much up for grabs for a while. Man, Tim, I don't know. It's a crazy position. Now, I do also want to talk about a couple other things here before we get to questions. There are rumors that Red Bull are going to, they're going to make their driver announcement soon, but the rumor is that it's Tuesday. And I guess that's the day that everybody gets into Abu Dhabi. It might be Tuesday, it might be Wednesday, it might be Thursday, but the driver lineup that I'm reading is obviously Max Verstappen. He's not going anywhere. Isaac Hadjar, I know it can be Isaac or Isaac. I'm just going to say Isaac Hadjar. I'm pre-fighting with the comment section who are trying to correct me on his name. And then at Racing Bulls, it would be Liam Lawson and Arvid Lindblom, which would mean Yuki Tsunoda might be on the outside looking in. Is that what you're hearing? Is that what you expect to happen?
Yes, that's what I expect to happen. And I believe we talked about this on the show a couple months ago.
Yes, we did.
And we even said who these seats were probably going to belong to. The one that we weren't too sure on is the battle between Liam Lawson and Yuki Tsunoda. And yeah, no, from what I've heard, it does sound like Lawson will probably have that seat. As for Yuki, I'm not too sure what his plans are going to be. I mean, I have heard things about IndyCar, whether or not that's going to play out at this moment. That remains to be seen. Is it a possibility that he could go there? Maybe Honda does something and puts him into IndyCar with another team. I think Dale Coyne's probably got a seat open, but whether or not that ends up happening, I don't know. Maybe Yuki comes back and is a reserve test driver.
I wondered about that.
Red Bull Racing. Yeah, I mean, there's a number of different things that I think could happen for Yuki, but I have heard similar to what whatever report is you're reading, whatever it is, then I've heard similar things as well.
Might there be a test spot open for him or a reserve driver spot open for him at Aston Martin? He's got familiarity with some. I mean, obviously Adrian Newey's there, but I don't think they work together directly very much. But my thinking is it's Honda engine. He knows that well. Much like Nico Hülkenberg was the Aston Martin reserve driver a couple of years ago and then found his way back into Formula One, is if that's what Yuki's ambition is, it would seem sticking with the Honda program and being at a team that, like Aston Martin, that should be in the Ascendant next year, might make a lot of sense. You heard anything about that?
So Aston Martin's going to have Jack Crawford in that role. It doesn't make sense to put Yuki in there as well. It just doesn't. It depends on what Red Bull Racing wants to do. Like, do they want to retain his services? Yes or no? Right?
What would you do?
I would keep him around. If I was Red Bull Racing, I would definitely keep him around just because of the experience. It would be good to have him on as a reserve role. I'm not quite sure what's going to happen with Ayumi Iwasa either. Like maybe he sticks around. I'm not too sure on that front.
Yeah.
If I was Red Bull Racing, I would keep him on as a reserve driver, and I would put him in the Super Formula as a driver for the season, so he's getting some racing.
Right.
That's what I would do with him. I would keep him around though, because I believe he's worth it.
I think he's a good driver.
He is, yeah, definitely. The car is just, I mean, usually, Adam, like where that Red Bull Racing car is, if you're not Max Verstappen, is telling you wherever the second driver puts it, that's usually where that car is. And Max kind of papers over the cracks and makes the difference, right?
Yeah. Has Cadillac named their... Oh, yeah, it's Colton Herta, right?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, okay. Yep. So, yeah, tough spot. But you know what? I don't think definitely. I don't think this... If this is the way it goes, Tim, I really don't feel like it's the last we've seen of Yuki unless he wants it to be. I don't think he's, of the 20 drivers this year and the 22 next, that he's 23.
Mm-hmm.
You know, I think he's in the mid pack. Put him in a good car, he'd be a good second guy. So I'm curious to see what happens with him. And I'm sure there are some teams that would like just a veteran guy. The one thing that has sort of dogged him is work ethic off the track in terms of like physical fitness and that sort of thing. That might have been just, part of that was Netflix. Part of that was, being 20 or 21 whenever he got into that AlphaTauri car for the first time. Has that dogged him since? Like, is he still dealing with quote unquote attitude issues, commitment issues? Has that kind of ironed itself out?
No, I think when Franz Toss pulled him aside and made him move to Imola to be closer to the AlphaTauri at the time, AlphaTauri factory.
Yeah.
That's all that he needed to hear, and he got it on the right track. And I would say the work ethic's definitely there from Yuki for sure. He just hasn't been able to perform to the level that they want him to, but at the same time, he's in a difficult spot. It's,
I think that car's the kiss of death this year.
I mean, it has been for sure, right? But at the same time, I mean, Yuki showed some flashes over this weekend. Like, I felt his sprint quali was really decent. I felt his sprint race was okay. His race today, I mean, I think he finished 10th. Like, again, gathered a point. That's okay, but when the other car is winning, it is hard to justify why you would bring him back. I mean, if he's finishing like P5 or P6, maybe you make that argument, but it's a tough sport, man. What can I say? Like, it's...
Well, I think, Tim, too, like, you look at some of the backmarking teams right now. Obviously Alpine is committed to Colapinto for at least next year.
Yes.
You've got Haas committed to Behrman through the Ferrari program and Esteban Ocon because they needed a good veteran driver. But I look at teams like that and I go, you're telling me that I got like a vet, like, because Yuki is a vet now, that if one of those guys left or one of those guys doesn't work out, that he's not getting a phone call. I think, and I don't know how Ferrari view Oliver Behrman's season, right? I don't know how they internally look at his data and go, was it good? Was it not? Like, what we see on the track versus what they're seeing in the data are going to be two completely different things. And did he mature enough and whatever? And I think there'll be time for Yuki Tsunoda to come back. I hope he stays at least within the Red Bull program, like you said, and is able to get some driving in, because I think this is maybe a 6 months to a year max before he gets another seat. That's just how it feels to me.
Yeah, we'll see what happens. It all depends on where he lands for next season, right? Does he get locked in to do something in another championship, another racing series? I mean, let's wait and see. That could happen. If it does, I mean, would you remove yourself from that to come back to potential F1 seat? Or it's honestly, there's a number of different things that could play out here. So yeah, we just have to wait and see, right? We have to wait and see what the final news is on it.
And lastly, because we did mention Aston Martin there, Adrian Newey update. Obviously, he is now the team principal of Aston Martin. Andy Cowell's moved over to the business side and the more, how would you describe it? Like,
so Andy Cowell now is sort of Okay, so essentially, and we talked about this on
with Nelson on Wednesday.
with Nelson. And actually, we talked about it, Adam, you and I, on the post Vegas Grand Prix podcast as well. But Andy's kind of being moved over so he can help stabilize that relationship between the three stakeholders in this partnership, which is really vital. So the Honda, the sort of Aramco and Valvoline plus Aston Martin, and I think they were worried because things were starting to fall by the wayside.
They were fraying a little bit.
Yeah, not that they were fraying, but like when you're trying to introduce a power unit supplier into a team and it's brand new, there is so much that we just have no clue goes into that, right? These are two massive corporations that are coming together, right, to build a race car that needs to be built in a quick time. And you're going to have things that are going to fall through the cracks. And I think that's what was happening between the relationship between Honda and Aston Martin, and also the fuel provider as well, because they're going to be running new sustainable synthetic fuels. And I think all of these things were starting to really fall between those cracks. And Andy actually volunteered to look after that side of things because it really does play into his strengths. I mean, if you take a look at Mercedes and what he did there and helping Mercedes build that dominant team back, starting in 2014, that's all because of Andy. Like if it's not for Andy Cowell, like that Mercedes team is not as good as what it turns out to be. I mean, under his guidance, like that, they produced a championship winning car year on year on year up until 2021. And so he couldn't do that job while being the team principal.
Right. Okay.
And for Adrian, Newey says that the role he was going to play next year with this team was going to be the same as a team principal anyways. The only different thing is doing stuff with the media. That was going to be the only thing that would have been different. And so he thinks he can manage that media side, Adrian Newey does, with also the team principal sort of role at the same time. And then if you're looking for a CEO replacement, Adam.
Okay.
I mean,
and it's not going to be Christian Horner, though.
Yeah, well, I mean, you and I discussed this. I even said it's probably not a great idea. It's not. That's not going to be happening.
Right.
Right. So that role, I think, is going to be left. That's going to be left empty for a bit.
Okay.
I think the team as a whole has to stabilize now. Like, I think even Adrian must have said something to Lawrence in the terms of like, hey, like we've done a lot in a very quick amount of time. We've added a lot to this team in a quick amount of time, and we need to get it stabilized now for a period, and we get it sorted out, and we get people in the places of strengths, make sure the operations are flowing correctly, and then maybe go out and look for a CEO type or a business role type. And I think that's where sort of Lawrence fits into the business mold of all this. I'd said on the podcast that he's sticking around in that business role because that, I believe, is what's going to happen next, which I think is a really smart move. I like the fact that they're not just going to jump out and quickly sign someone right away, only because like they need that, like he had said, Adrian had said, that level of stabilization. So maybe they look at Andreas Seidel for something, maybe they don't. But if they can add a bit of talent and someone like Seidel and bring that individual in who can fill a certain role, then maybe why not? But if you're just looking for stabilization, I think what you've got now, that's the best way forward for this team, Adam, because I think when they get started in 2026, I think Aston could struggle a bit off the start. But I think as the season carries on, I think they get stronger. I think by the time we get to later in the season, I think Aston Martin becomes a really strong team, only because Adrian started so late.
Yeah,
he started so late on this car. Like, I think if we do the math, he's probably 4 months behind, or that car, I should say, maybe is 4 months behind compared to the other competitors.
Yep. Yep.
So maybe I think that but who knows? Maybe if they get out of the gates better than they thought, then who knows where the next season goes for them. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's been a bit of a revolving door in terms of team principals and that sort of thing in Aston. So it kind of makes sense that they would
love to see them do well,
Absolutely.
Be great.
Absolutely. Well, you want a team like that to come into the sport, right?
For sure. 100%.
Now, to get to questions, Ray D says, is there any explanation for Lando's consistent poor starts off the line versus somebody like Max? Is it a lack of nerve on Lando's part, or is it just Max being a superior driver?
Well, a big part of it has to do with that clean and dirty side of the track. I mean, granted, it wasn't, Norris didn't have the best of starts in Las Vegas either, right? And he started on the cleaner side of the track in Las Vegas. So, I mean, it is a good question. I think in Vegas, I think he flubbed the start. I don't think he had a great start. I also think the tire prep heading to the grid wasn't great for Lando in Vegas either. You could also hear him getting frustrated at Max Verstappen over the team radio because of what was going on behind him. Yeah. It may have taken some of his attention away from what Lando needed to do to prep the tire. However, in Qatar, just being on that dirtier side, it didn't matter. Even if he had a rocket getaway, still don't think there was anything he could have done to stop Max Verstappen. Verstappen's tire warm up heading to the grid, Adam, was so aggressive that you knew right away,
he's a shark.
You knew he was coming. It didn't matter. It did not matter. What's going to matter is when they're in Abu Dhabi. That start is going to be extremely important for Lando Norris.
Are the tire regulations the same in Abu Dhabi as they are in Qatar, like a 25 lap maximum? Because I can understand. No, they're not. Okay, interesting. Because I can understand why Max would burn the shit out of his tires, heading into the starting line in Qatar. You're going to get Max 25 laps out of those anyway, barring a safety car, which they inevitably got.
7.
7 laps. And so, why? What are you saving them for, right?
Burn them down.
But now, that tire management, which Lando's quite good at, plays into it. So that will be, maybe that favors McLaren a little bit. Now, Michael Klink wanted to ask you, despite the 12-point deficit, this championship is Max's, isn't it? McLaren will surely fold with the pressure on. Papaya rules will doom them. But now, that's opinion. Where I think he's got a point is he says strategy, pit stops, experience, they all favor Red Bull and Max Verstappen. And I would say maybe tire management might favor McLaren. Hard to disagree, Tim.
No, it's bang on. That's a really good assessment, actually, because if you think about it, Adam, Red Bull has the experience winning drivers titles, especially in tight contested championship seasons. Yeah, you can always bet that they will be aggressive. It does not matter. So you can see that as soon as Christian Horner left, that DNA, that part of the team, to take a big risk, to be aggressive with everything, that is still baked in there, and that is something I think Mecky's is just yes, keep doing this because it works for us. It's okay. Yeah. Where you go with the McLaren side, I mean. Not as much experience when it comes to the close drivers championship battles. The only person on that team who I can think of would have to be Andrea Stella when he was with Schumacher in some of the years that he was winning his championships. There were some closely contested ones, but there were also other ones.
Would that be with Eddie Irvine or?
Yeah, I mean, it would be like Eddie Irvine, but then also Hakkinen and Schumacher. And there were those years as well. So those battles were magnificent. But again, Stella, a part of that, right? He was a big part of that. So he has that experience where no one else on the team really does. And so I think Adam.
But it was a while ago, Tim.
Yeah, but
a long time ago.
Yeah, he still has that experience. I wouldn't. No, never. But he's also not holding the wheel gun to change tires, right?
No, he's not.
He's controlling the team. So I think there's a good point there that Michael is making. And you know what? That could play into Red Bull's favor. But again, 12 points is a lot to make up. Okay.
Well, listen, mid this week, Tim and I will do another recording. Are we bringing on a guest for this one? Are we allowed to say that?
Yeah, go for it. I'll let's put this will put pressure on him.
Yeah, Nelson Valkenburg has said he will be joining us. And Tim, you're flying to Abu Dhabi. You will be seeing this in person, which I'm so jealous. It's so unbelievable that you're going. And you're going with Nelson. So you guys are going to be recording from separate hotel rooms down the hall from each other. When we talk on Wednesday, that's going to be a podcast for the ages. We absolutely love Nelson. He was great last week. I'm sorry I missed that one. And it's going to be a phenomenal end to a phenomenal season, Tim. So let's get ready. One more week to go. And in the meantime, enjoy your sleep because you're not going to get much of it this week.
That's true. Thanks, Adam. Appreciate you doing this.